Good morning from Yami BTV. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love as usual. Let me clear up the life sentence questions and what mandatory and actually discretionary are two different things for a life sentence prisoner. The mandatory is for murder. You get a set tariff, which a recommendation of what the judge sees fit for you to serve for the crime of such a serious nature. In the old days, we know that you could commit a murder in the 80s, for instance, and you could get 12 years and 15 years recommendations. Well, times moved on since then, because for knife crime, gun crime, for all murder crimes, really, you've got to go past 20, 25, 30, really serious 35s, even 40, right? Now, what discretionary means, right, is you haven't got a life sentence for murder, but a judge gives you a life sentence for, say, a serial rapist or an arsonist. Or I'm even sure in the Archipel you can even get a life sentence for certain robberies and things like that. Don't quote me on that, but in the old days, I'm sure that was the case. But with the murder thing, right, we know a life's been taken. Right? So when people say, yeah, I got a life for murder, you know what it is. If someone says I got a life sentence and it's discretionary, to me, that means your crimes must be seriously, seriously bad in reality. For a judge to give you a life sentence for a crime that is not murder means that, you know, there's stuff that's happened in that case that he felt the need that you got to be taken out of the equation. So it is in their powers to give you a life sentence for certain crimes apart from murder. But I hope that clears that up a little bit more. But the mentality of lifers, right? Call them Bennett that glue, right? Now, the mentality of lifers, right? The mentality of lifers is varies with all different men and ladies, depending on what support you got outside. We know now the youngsters, especially with gang culture and gang murders, when they're young, you know, they make silly errors of judgment and decisions for a sense of belonging. You go there, you find out that everything that you aspired to be on the outside for a couple of minutes of glory, so you believed, by getting involved and being a murderer, you know, you find out that all your friends are not going to be there, your loves are not going to be there, not really, and they suffer, and they're finding it hard in there. Those are the facts with the kids, right? Because they're thinking their name's going to ring forever. Even some of the big names that I used to hero and idolize, you think their names. You ask somebody out here, do you know them? And especially in their 20s and 30s, they say, no, I've never heard of him. So that's all a load of shit, isn't it? You notoriety and glamour about being, you know, a hitman, or you murdered this and you murdered that. The era that you was in, with us lot that are in there, know about that stuff because we were on the streets at the time, or were linked to this bit and that bit. They're big names in the true crime world, but as years have gone by, not a lot of people remember, unless, you know, people talk about them and bring it up to them and they say, who is he? Yeah, but everyone's doing that now, kind of thing, which in reality, many of those got big sentences for gun crime and murders and whatnot. It's true, you know, loads of kids and other people are doing it now on a regular basis. So it's nothing out of the ordinary now, like it was when standout figures were committing major crimes, right? So the mentalities is what I say is what makes or breaks you. When you accept your part in things, especially, you know, you could have domestic, gangland murders, unnecessary murders, you know, where you just flip on someone because you're having a bad day, or you're doing a robbery or burglary, and someone gets in the way and sadly they die. You know, there's all different forms of how a murderer can feel in a life sentence prisoner, right? The ones that accept it And because I used to think certain times, all right, murder, that means they're serious, they're going to behave bad in here. But no, the majority of lifers actually get their head down and want to get back out, depending, of course, on the tariff and the recommendations of the things, or come down in category. But again, if you've got a lot of support out there, and you've got, you know, your missus stays through, you've got kids or, you know, family members that stay close to you to support you, it does help you. But what about people that haven't got nobody once they get a life sentence? Doing that, coming to terms with that you're not going to get out, and to get your head around it is going to be very, very difficult. I behaved like I was never getting out. We saw where that left me in the end, and many others. But a lot of those other real lifers, right, they behave and they get back down and they're out now. And I didn't think they could get back out. At the time, I was thinking, you lot ain't getting out for now. I mean, in the early days, especially when I first went to Aylesbury and a lot of HMPs, and it's very difficult for lifers to hear, like, you're going home soon. Yeah, we're going out next year. You know, because they know they're not going nowhere for now. But then you come back on another sentence and it's their time to get out, depending on them old tariffs of 12s and 15s. They've come out and done pretty well. They got the life sentence when they were young, and some have turned their life around. But yet, on other occasions, I've come back 2 sentences, 3 sentences down the line, and then they're in there for something else as well. Because when you miss out on your childhood, to be let out after 10, 12 years, if you get a life sentence at 18, 19, or even 20, you missed out on all your fun years, which I found I missed out on in reality. But you come out, you live it, and your life experiences that what you dreamed about while you was in there, you know, relationships, ladies, going here, going there, and then you can get caught up again because you're still young enough to fall again. Do you see what I mean? Because the elementary errors, especially if you're not leaving the old life, if you get what I mean. But no, the bottom line for me, in the mentality of the life as the psychological factors, right, are very, very varying from all different types. A lot of bitter, not coming to terms, saying, oh, you never done. But then there are innocent men too. Imagine getting your head round that and you haven't done it. You know, that's a very bitter pill to swallow. And it does happen, and it's still happening. It happened way back in the day, and it's still happening now. But the majority, I used to think, oh, he's scared, really. He doesn't want to lose time, the lifer. He doesn't, you know, he's not going to really, can't come out and want to fight you in it, because any suggestion of violence, you know, you're a murderer, you're in for violence. So that's going to set your tariff back, or your parole when you go up there. They're going to say, yeah, but you got nicked for stabbing Yammy down there, or you had a punch up down there, and depending on what it was. But again, the old rule was, right, you come in, right? It's an old trick, this one, right? Many used to use it. Come in as a lifer or long-term prisoner. You start off like a madman. Like, if you get nicked for the first year or two, how do we put it? You're really being subversive towards the screws and everything. And then a third of the way through it, you show changes in your behavior, right? So you start behaving, and on the record, by the time that parole hearing comes up, you had 4 years of being a madman, and you had 7 years of being a real, you know, down-to-earth model prisoner, right? So the parole will think, yeah, that's definite change. Rather than if you behave for 10 years and then all of a sudden you have 5 bad years, the risk of letting you out is going to be much more difficult, if you get what I mean. But there are exceptions to all the rules, if you get what I mean. You know, some, you know, officers, if they're doing their job properly, that is, you know, because you remember, you know, there's, with human nature, you know, you get the good ones and you get the bad ones, I'm afraid. Oh God, what was I going to say? But the good ones and the bad ones. But they can, yeah, because they can see that you've been behaving for 10 years. A man's upset you. A man swung at you in the kitchen. A man, you know, you had to defend yourself and you had to fight back. You know what I mean? You're not a punch bag where people come on and an officer will say, no, he didn't start it. So what was he to do, you know? Because if you start letting people put their hand on you in that environment, everybody's going to think they can do it. You know what a bunch of predators and sharks we all were, sensing, you know, when a man could be weak and when not so much, you know, the proper ones, you know, that we know exactly what it means, don't we? You know, certain man, they want to get out and they realize the error of their ways and accepting responsibility and remorseful in their actions, and then they'll be ready for release. But sadly, there are a lot of men that have been in jail, gone past their tariffs, haven't played the game, still on the book in the category A's, and they're still being held on to with no hope of getting out. So what does that say to us all? You know, we're one rule for one and one rule for another. Some men it's very, very difficult to get over. That's my part one of this. I know I'm holding this up today because I can't sit down. I can't find a place to put the stand. Loads of love. Be up surely.